On the road to the State of the Nation address now, and President Cyril Ramaphosa vowed to tackle corruption when he took office back in 2019. Just before the end of his first term, he signed the National Prosecuting Authority Amendment Bill into law, making the investigative directorate permanent. But questions have been raised about its effectiveness ahead of his State of the Nation address tomorrow. Here's Newzroom Afrika's Mnisi with that report.
Who could forget the first case that came from the 1 billion rand state capture inquiry, the Nulani case, which fell flat on its face for failure to meet the threshold of prosecution. It was described by a Bloemfontein High Court judge as a comedy of errors before acquitting those who were charged. Or the case involving Eskom's former acting CEO, Matshela Koko, which was struck off the roll. The failure of these cases launched an avalanche of criticism from all corners about the NPA's ability to bring those responsible for state capture to book. When President Cyril Ramaphosa proclaimed the investigative directorate under the National Prosecuting Authority in 2019, it was to investigate high-profile, complex matters, including those that emanated from the state capture inquiry. Both the Nulani and Koko matters fell within this category. Nearly 5 years after this proclamation, the President, during his State of the Nation address, told South Africans that great progress had been made in bringing those responsible for state capture to justice, citing more than 200 people prosecuted and more being investigated. He also spoke of the unit being made permanent.
Legislation is currently before Parliament to establish the Investigating Directorate as a permanent entity with full investigating powers. But there is much more work to be done to eradicate corruption completely.
Indeed, the National Prosecuting Authority Amendment Bill was signed into law last year, making the ID a permanent unit in the NPA and now called the Investigative Directorate Against Corruption, IDAC. It armed the unit with criminal investigative powers to fully pursue most complex forms of corruption. According to the unit, it has 94 state capture cases, 57 with no specific recommendations, while 37 have specific recommendations. Of the 57 cases with no specific recommendations are 57 entities and 170 accused persons that have been arrested or issued with summons, while there are 19 accused entities and 36 accused persons from the 37 cases with specific recommendations.
They haven't fared well at all. We hear that they go to court with empty files in order to frighten the opposition. Now, I can assure you that no opposition worth their salt is frightened by empty files. It will take them all of 1.5 seconds to notice that the files are empty. And after that, the case is lost. It doesn't matter how well you do after that. So when you have a unit that is touted as being elite, that is touted as being the answer to fighting corruption in South Africa, and they have to resort, then you know that you're in trouble.
IDAC says there is no truth to such allegations of going to court with empty files and that they were quoted out of context. The complexity of the cases means the unit needs specialized skills to sift through the evidence to find the rot, and capacity was among some of the issues that needed to be addressed. President Cyril Ramaphosa said a digital forensic capability to assist the unit was set up with assistance of business.
You need people who have a lot of knowledge, people who have the right tools, people who use the correct programs, and you need a limited amount of people to have access so that you can maintain the integrity of the entire system and that you can use the information in court. And when the integrity is attacked, and it will be attacked, of course, it's the easiest defense there is, attack the integrity of the electronic evidence. You have to be able to withstand that attack. And to do that, you need serious cyber forensic experts. And they don't come cheap.
The unit says it continues to recruit investigators since the signing of the Amendment Act. They say they are engaged in a salary dispensation process that will enable them to recruit skilled investigators. For others, the signing of the bill does not make the unit permanent. they believe it remains vulnerable to political interference and could meet the same fate as the once mighty Scorpions.
I think that it's very clear from the structure of the new structure, the legislated structure rather than the presidentially proclaimed structure of the ID, that it remains part of the National Prosecuting Authority, and the National Prosecuting Authority is under, and these are the words of the Constitution itself, under the final responsibility of the Minister of Justice. Worse than that, its accounting officer, the person who is accountable for what the NPA does, is the Director General of the Department of Justice, clearly part of the executive. So my basic gripe with the ID is that it cannot possibly pass constitutional muster. Calling it permanent is just nonsense. It's no more permanent than the Scorpions were, and we all know that the Scorpions were summarily closed down when the ANC decided in Polokwane in December 2007 that it should be disbanded urgently.
IDEC says investigations and prosecutions follow evidence, and they do that without fear, favor, or prejudice. The fight against corruption in South Africa requires strong institutions, and it is a point that stakeholders will be fixing their eyes on when the President takes to the podium during the State of the Nation address. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Mnisi in Johannesburg.